you've got a cuppa. This is the Train Sim World 3 patch notes, save game toggle, and more, which is coming out today, I believe. Okay then. In fact, I've seen it update on stream, so it's not I believe, I know. Thanks very much for your continued feedback on Train Sim World 3. Today we'll be launching the first of several post-release updates with quality of life improvements and bug fixes, as well as reintroducing a save game toggle for those who have been asking for its return. Read on to find out more below. Now, just a note, I read these things to make it more accessible for people who can't handle this much text, or just like to have it read to them, or perhaps need to have it read to them because reasons. Doesn't matter why, just do. Okay, first up, important note. This update will be a little staggered due to the certification process on different platforms. As we know how anticipated the save game toggle feature is in particular, we wanted to make sure as many players had it in their hands going into the weekend as possible. This means that Epic and Steam players will receive the update tonight. Well, I've got it, so yep, it's rolling out. PS5, PC Game Pass, Xbox One, Xbox Series S and X players will receive the update tomorrow morning, pending certification. PS4 players will receive this likely after the weekend, but before Tuesday. Thanks for your patience, and we hope you enjoy the improvements. Headliners added a toggle to the settings menu to enable or disable the save game functionality. This is disabled by default while it's currently being worked on further. So if you don't remember, there was an outcry in the community saying save game doesn't work. And well, let's just say that was the noisy minority, and the happy majority, for whom it worked most of the time, were quite surprised and shocked that it was taken away. So, Dovetail have made a couple of fixes in the core, but they've also given us this toggle, so if you want to have it, you can have it, knowing that it won't always work. So it should work as well as it did before, at least. A mouse sensitivity slider is being added. At present, this is not functioning as intended, but we're working on a fix. This is actually really important for people like me who use a trackball, because I have to make my own ini changes to make my trackball smooth. Otherwise, it's totally useless in the game. Profile importation should now work correctly. Removed areas where rain and snow would appear underneath structures. Lightning will also no longer strike under covers and will be at a greater distance from the player. I actually kind of like almost getting hit by it, to be honest, but you know, I get it. Fixed fog getting extremely dense when going from high to low altitude, I guess. I liked the extremely dense fog. I liked that you couldn't see. It was actually quite realistic. When I've lived in San Francisco, you can't see a damn thing in San Francisco sometimes. But anyway, the BR Class 465 tutorial can now be completed, also unlocking the achievement. Odd semicircular patches are removed from various locomotives, including the Class 66. Doppelstock headlights will no longer always be toggled on. Added a tooltip when recovering from emergency stop in the ICE-1. That was actually one of my most common questions on the video I did of that one. And the answer is, push the HLL fill button. It's right next to the brake gauge. Reduced rain audio when inside the cab with windows and doors shut. Added deceleration sounds to the BR Class 375. The M7 traction engine sounds no longer cut out after the first 4 coaches pass on the LIRR and Harlem line. Now, can I just say a traction engine is a steam thing that goes chuff, chuff, chuff. I'm sure you mean traction motors. Electric things are motors. I'm a pedantic person. Full changelog. Core. Under the category UI/system. Added a toggle to the settings menu to enable and disable save game. This is disabled by default while it is currently being worked on further. I'll turn it on. Mouse sensitivity slider added to settings. At present, this is not functioning as intended, but we are working on a fix. Scenarios and liveries will import correctly when transferring profiles. Mine always did, but I do know some people had some challenges. Added scroll to the last selected route button when backing to the route selection menu. Added the option to return to the timetable menu after completing a service. That's good. That's actually really good, so you don't have to go back through and choose the route and everything. So if you're playing as a shift and you want to do multiple trains, that's actually really good. Added option to include or exclude tutorials from quick play. Exclude is the go. Added difficulty and length info to campaign events UI. Disabled the copy button when at max number of scenarios created in the scenario designer. Fixed progress bar color and wrapping of text in the mastery menu. Hide discount banner on store items now by default. Fixed height of signed in profile widget. Added green tick to completed services in the timetable menu. A lot of people ask for that. Fixed custom weather presets not updating sliders properly in the weather menu. Scenario designer will show first stop length instead of shortest stop length. That's good. Pause menu will no longer toggle when clicking ESC in the route map. Pause menu will now correctly load the 2D map. Debriefing screen names and experience numbers will no longer extend out of the window. Settings will now save when clicking Apply with unchecked options. Store image thumbnails now load properly. Under the topic Gameplay, lightning will no longer strike undercover and will be at a greater distance from the player. Fix for fog getting extremely dense when starting at high altitude and driving to a lower altitude. Fixed clothing material on characters and passengers to prevent odd shading and glitter-like appearance on the edges. That's good. No more shiny hats. After rain stops, performance should return to the same level. Tees Valley Line decals will now properly change colour. Under the heading Achievements, BR Class 465 tutorial can now be completed, thus unlocking the achievement as well. Fixed Introduction tutorial achievements. Major heading Southeastern High Speed. Removed snow from understation canopies inside tunnels and under bridges. Car stop signs visually updated to align correctly to DAO monitors. That's the driver only monitors, so it's the ones sitting on the side so they can see what's on the platform. Route indication signals change to match current designations. Passengers should now board trains correctly on the platform at Ebbsfleet International. Players can no longer fall through the ground at Gravesend. Of all the places to be sending players 6 feet under. That's sad, actually, because it's one of the ways that I escape from the invisible zone. That's alright. Added wheel blur to MFA wagons. Subtopic Faversham. No rain will be inside the depot. Player will no longer be able to walk through fences. OPO monitors should now be in the right places. Players should not be randomly blocked in Ashford around sidings. Lighting fixes for the North Downs Tunnel. Under the subheading Class 465, Reverser and Master Key now work as expected in both Immersion and Classic input modes. Subheading Class 395. Front destination should correctly display the final destination on platform boards. The DSD/DVD pedal will trigger only when the system is turned on and above 3 miles an hour. AWS or TPWS buttons will only sound when either system is enabled and input is required or expected. Class 375 subheading Improved Audio. Fixed the issue whereby the cab wind was playing far too loud when a window is open. Reduced rain audio when inside the cab with windows and doors shut. Traction motors should now be audible during deceleration. Yay, traction motors, they got it right on this one. Subheading Class 66. Couplers should now animate as expected. Adjustments to physics to avoid unexpected stalling at low RPMs. Cab light first time use reward should now trigger correctly. Removed semicircular white artifacts from wheels. Major heading Cone Pass. Resolved issues that caused the player to be kicked out of the main menu suddenly. The 2D map will now update when selecting a range of starting points. Fixes to scenario designer map tags. Correction to localization on free text sign. Updated scores to ensure players can get gold on the ES44C4 and SD40-2 training modules. Removed semicircular white artifacts from above wheels for all cajon wagons, boxcar, bulkhead, flat car, tank car and auto rack. ES44C4 fixed issues relating to player getting stuck in a moving train. BNSF SD40-2 subheading added a rear headlight sound that matches the front headlight switch. Subheading bulkhead flat car, wheels rotate as expected when in motion. Major heading Castle Wurzburg. Players should no longer be able to walk through cars at Col Ost. Players should no longer be able to walk through stairs at Castle Wilmenschen Station. Fixed pathing of ICE 1580 to not go wrong line running. Oh, that's sad. That was fun. Tunnel sign collectibles are now able to be picked up. Prevented train getting temporarily stuck in the icebreaker tutorial. Adding text tooltip for refilling brake pipe. Bug fixes to services. Subheading BR185. Adjusted cab windscreen to prevent errors involving SSR reflections of cab screens. PZB acknowledge will only work after passing a 1000 Hz magnet. Cab must be active and PZB enabled. CIFA and PZB can be triggered from the gamepad and rail driver. That's a nice change. I'll still use my box, of course. Subheading BR146. CIFA and PZB can be triggered from gamepad and rail driver. ICE3 horn is now named correctly. Correctly spelt Bremsen on the MFD. ICE1 subheading. Adjusted cab windscreen to prevent errors involving SSR reflections of cab screens. Player can now select each length of ICE1 in the game menu. Added recovery from emergency brake tooltip on ICE1. Subheading DB Kijils. That's Kijils. Apologies if I didn't pronounce that very well. Brake should release quicker to prevent getting stuck on an incline. Major heading Peninsula Corridor. PIS should now be better aligned to lampposts. Fixed an issue with the first-person camera on the route introduction to allow it to be completed. Subheading CT Nippon. Player can now walk across the consist without needing to crouch. CT F40PH-2 CAT. Ditch lights will now pulse as expected. Major heading Hamburg-Lübeck should no longer have rain effect inside stations or undercover. Route intro doors will now close automatically. Major heading Bakerloo. Removed incorrect reflections appearing on side mirrors. Pringles posters removed for PS4 and PS5 players. Major heading Marseille Avignon. Added many new sounds including Mastery sound additions, fireworks sounds at night and jet sounds during the day. Major heading Main Spessart Bahn. Fixed crashes when loading certain services. Major heading Long Highland Railroad. M7 traction engine. There's that traction engine again. Chuff, 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 chuff. Woo! M7 traction motor sounds should no longer cut out after the first 4 coaches pass. Well, that's a really old bug. I'm glad they fixed that one. Blank entry should no longer appear in profile train selection. Major heading Harlem Line. M7 traction motor sounds no longer cut out after the first 4 coaches pass. Major heading Tees Valley Line. Tees Yard turnaround achievement now correctly unlocks on X1, I think it's Xbox One, Xbox Series X and Windows 10. Tees Valley Line decals added to livery designer. Major heading Other loco changes. Subheading DBBR182. Made sure the door interlock does not prevent you from using the throttle when the doors are closed. Subheading DBBR101. Adjustments to the AFB to keep the speed offset below LAB and decrease LZB deceleration to be more realistic for typical braked weight percentages of IC trains. If you'd like that in English, it means that it won't go over the speed limit and get you penalised. Passenger lights from the IC coaches will no longer bleed into the cab, providing improvements to performance. IC is intercity. Reduced illumination from cab lights into tunnels. DB Doppelstock. Headlights will no longer always be toggled on. We appreciate all the feedback you've been sending in so far. We're working hard to keep a report of the most prominent community issues and delivering the best experience possible. Now, there was another one for Train Sim World 2. They have a patch for the add-ons manager coming to consoles this afternoon, addressing feedback from launch last week. Fixed an issue whereby loading Diesel Legends of the Great Western Loco in a scenario or timetable caused a crash. DBBR406 should now be available in the Loco selection menu for all applicable German routes. Issues that we're still working on, the double DBBR143 appearing twice in the Loco selection menu, some routes being available for players which have not been purchased. The update will download automatically for owners when it becomes available. Players should allow at least 24 hours after restarting Steam, Epic Game Store, or their console for the update to appear. Well, it's only for consoles, so it probably doesn't matter for Steam or the Epic Game Store, really. Way to go with the default wording. That's okay. And this has been the news. So from a personal perspective, there's quite a few welcome changes in there that I think will be quite well received by the community. There's a couple of things in there that, you know, like a really dense fog. I actually kind of like that, so I'm a bit sad that it's going. Hopefully that won't be another safe game thing where it comes back in a few weeks. Anyway, all good. So, hope you enjoy the changes. Let me know in the comments if you do or don't. One thing I did notice is they talked about the little semicircles and hemispheres and stuff for Cajon Pass, but they didn't talk about it for Southeastern High Speed. They did talk about it for the Class 66, but the wagons had it too. Oh well, we'll see, won't we? Give it a crack. Alrighty, see you later. As usual, if you like this, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel and consider clicking the little tinkly things so you get notifications. Alrighty, see ya. Bye.